Toastmasters, and Abby, our guest. I'm usually a pretty reserved person. Self-revelation is not natural for me. I had a hard time writing this speech. I kept coming up with a list of demographics like I was filling out a government form. Bob suggested that I tell a story, so I'm going to tell the story of how I decided I wanted to try Toastmasters. Back in 2000, I went to work for Mount Diablo Unified School District as a special education paraprofessional, a job I really enjoyed. In 2008, I had an assignment working with a boy who was a great kid to work with. He was easygoing and funny and smart. One day I was helping him back into his wheelchair when I injured my neck and my shoulder. Because this injury happened at work, I had to go to a workers' compensation doctor, and that was not a good experience. I was prescribed physical therapy, given work accommodations, and more or less treated like I was a malingerer. Time passed, and I just was not getting better. For months, I had untreated pain. Eventually, I was allowed to change doctors. I was re-examined and scheduled for surgery, but I was still not being treated for pain. I'd been in pain for months. This was what set me up for central sensitization, which is the way chronic pain is established and maintained. What happens is that your neurons grow more receptors for the chemical pain messengers to attach to, making you hypersensitive to pain. The next 3 years were very trying for me. I continued to work with accommodations, and even though at that point I was being treated for pain, it was very difficult. Other physical problems started to arise. Problems with other joints, problems with my neck, problems with my spine and my hips. And then, due to budget cuts during the Great Recession, the school district decided that they could no longer make accommodations for me, and they let me go. They called it medical resignation on the paperwork, but it was not my idea, so I applied for disability retirement instead, and thankfully it was granted. These were dark days for me. Here I was, no job, in pain, no real hope for improvement. I was fatigued, depressed, isolated, unsure of what to do next, but knowing I could not do the kind of work I had been doing, I thought maybe I need a degree to make myself more employable. I had all the requirements to transfer to a university, so I decided to go back to school and finish my BA in psychology with the thought that I would like to continue my education and become a counselor. I found that going back to school was a real challenge. I had trouble with the commute, I had trouble navigating the campus, I had trouble carrying a full load of classes, but I did it and I graduated. The experience taught me, though, that I was really not going to be able to handle working full-time and taking care of myself in my home while I was being treated for pain. You know the sayings, sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. Consequently, I went back to pain management for the third time. I thought, surely there has to be something else, some other way. This cannot be the rest of my life. And I was examined again and interviewed again and tested again, and then it happened. My doctor asked if I could touch my thumb to my wrist. I could. Could I bend over and touch the floor with my palms with my legs straight? I could do that too. Various and assorted other contortions, I could do those. He sent me to the geneticist, and I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So many things started to make sense. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissues disorder. It's rare and poorly understood. It affects the way collagen is produced in the body. This results in overstretched, damaged ligaments and tendons that do not heal normally, chronic pain, fatigue, muscle spasms, arthritic changes, and dysautonomia, which is a dysregulation of your autonomic nervous system. I'm kind of stuck in fight or flight. That explained a lot of things that had been happening. This diagnosis was my turning point. I joined 2 online Ehlers-Danlos communities. I learned from other people what works for them. I felt less isolated, I felt vindicated, I felt empowered. Until this point, I had no options, nowhere to start and no control. Now, armed with more information, I asked my pain management doctor if I could try an unconventional treatment called low-dose naltrexone. That was 18 months ago. Since that time, I've stopped all pain medication other than Tylenol. I have more energy and less pain. I've become more active. I actually want to engage with people, and that had become a problem. That is what brings me to Toastmasters. I've decided to live more purposefully. I'm putting myself in an environment where I have to interact with people. What I hope to do is improve my communication skills, feel comfortable interacting with people, and ready myself to go on job interviews. I believe these skills can change the rest of my story. In spite of my health challenges, I believe I can find my way back to an active and productive life. Some of my circumstances are within my control. Toastmasters is one step in that direction for me. Thank you.
If you don't take it.